guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Anita from Anita's Cake Bakery, and today I'm going to show you how to decorate an Easter bunny cake. So I'll start off by covering the board in fondant icing, then I'll move on to the ears. Next will be the face, where I'll show you how to make the cheeks, nose, eyes and whiskers. Then I'll make the tail and the feet. Next will be the head decoration, and I'll show you how to cut out some flowers in various colours. Then lastly will be the finishing touches, where I'll dust the cheeks and add some glitter. Okay, let's get started. So I'll just put this down here and then we'll start with the board. So I have an 8-inch round cake drum here. So I'm going to cover this with the fondant. So I've got some white fondant here. I'm just going to dust the surface a little. I'm just going to roll this so it's slightly bigger than the board. Just trying to keep the shape round as the board is round. Okay, I'm not going to do it too thick, but it will probably end up being around 5 millimeters in thickness or so. Okay, you can measure it up against the board to see if it needs to be any bigger. Actually, I think that's about right, but I'm just going to roll it a little bit more. Okay, so that's about right. So I'm going to just lift this off slightly, and what I usually do is just put some water on the board with a paintbrush, just so that the fondant can stick to it nicely. Just making sure you get around the edges and in the middle. So it's just literally draping it over the board, like so. And then I get my knife and I just cut around the edges. So I'm cutting the excess off with my knife. So just doing that. If you can see, but it's quite thick there, so maybe it was a little bit too thick, but that's fine. Just be careful with the knife, be careful you don't cut yourself as you're going along, but yeah, that's basically it. So just put the excess fondant away, making sure you wrap it back up. Right, on my board I've got some, I've cut out some small circles on the original board. I've cut out some small circles and I'm going to replace it with some coloured circles. So for that I'm using a, like a small round cutting tool. So just literally just wherever you want the circles to be, you just push it in. And you can just use your knife to lift out the circle. There. So you just do that just in random spots, I suppose. Just all around the board. Because the board is sticky, it might be a little bit tricky trying to get the circles out. But you can just use a knife or some other tool just to get them out. Okay, there's a few more. It's just really random. There's no particular design in mind with these circles. maybe another one there. Okay, so now that I've taken out the circles, I'm going to replace them with some coloured circles. So I've got some lilac. I'm going to use lilac, yellow and pink. So just roll this. Obviously, because the board is quite thick, these pieces need to be around the same thickness because it needs to be flush when you put these in. So you're replacing, I'll show you in a sec anyway. So I'm going to cut one out. Hoping it's the right thickness. Sometimes it's a bit tricky to get out. Yeah, that looks thick enough. So I'm just going to literally just pop that in the hole. So I'm just going to do maybe another 2 or 3 of these, and then I'll move on to another colour. That's one, and one more. Right. You might not need to add any more water in there to stick it on because the board should be slightly wet from before. But if you find that it's not sticking in, then you can just dab another small amount of water in there and then just replace it. Right, so that's the lilac, and I'm going to now do some pink. Just kneading it so it's a bit more soft. Right, so I'm going to do maybe 3 more of these. So 1. You could also use like a pin or something to get this out. If a knife's a bit too tricky. This was actually a plunger. It did have like a plunger in there with a, oh, what's it called? Well, it's actually a plunger, but there's a piece missing. So now I've got to do it this way, where I've got to push it in and then, whoops, and pull it out myself. Yeah, there was a spring inside that I could push down, and it made it easier for the fondant to fall out. Right, so that's that one. Oops, see, that one fell out, so that means it's a bit too dry in there. Actually, I'll just dampen all the holes. And I'll put one here. So I've done pink, I'm going to do some green and a couple of yellow ones, and then that's that. Maybe how much? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to do 3 of one and 2 of the other. Right, so one there, and one here, and then I'm going to add some yellow, and then just get some. It's getting a bit sticky on the surface, so I'm going to add some more corn flour. So 3 of these. Sometimes if you knock it, it comes out anyway, so you might not even need to use your knife. Right, so that's 1, 2, and the last one, 3. So you've got like a pretty little board there, really random where the dots are. It's like polka dots. So now I'm going to place my cake in the middle. So my cake is a fake cake. I've decided just to use a fake one for this demonstration. So I've already covered it in the fondant. So I'm just going to place this in the middle of the board. So to stick this down, I'm just going to use some edible glue. But if this was a real cake, you could stick it down with some royal icing or some buttercream icing. So for this, I'm just going to use some edible glue. I'm just going to place that in the middle. So just making sure that it's central. So this is, to just make sure that it is in the middle, you can just measure it. So it's about nearly 2 inches either side. Yep, so this is perfectly central. So that's fine. So I'm just going to set this aside now, and then I'll go on to show you how to make the ears. So for the ears, I'm using some modelling paste this time because I want the ears to set really firm because they need to be able to harden up and stand up on top of the cake. So I'm going to just give this a bit of a knead, and then I'm going to roll it out. Right, it's because it's modelling paste, it's like, this is really firm, and actually I think the packet was slightly open, so it's a bit firmer than it should be. It's a bit hard, but that's fine, I think. So some corn flour on your surface, and I've got some templates that I made up for the bunny's ears. I've got these 2 templates here, and I've just labelled them ear. So you've got the outer ear and then the inner ear. So the outer ear is going to be white, and the inner ear is going to be like a baby pink colour. So let me just roll this out. So it does need to be fairly thick because we want this to be able to stand up, as I said earlier. So that's about right. So I'm going to cut around the ears with a pizza cutter. So just go right around. You need 2 of these actually, so that's the first one. And let's do another one. You might need a little bit more modelling paste. Let me just grab some. The modelling paste that I'm using tonight is by Renshaw. Renshaw flour and modelling paste. This is the one that I'm using. This is a really good one. Right. Let's roll this out. Okay, and my template, just cut around this again. Right, that's the two ears for the bunny. And actually I think this one's a bit too thick. It's slightly thick, so I'm just going to roll it again. Just roll over it slightly and just go around. Again, just because I think it's just a little bit, it's just very slightly too thick. Not that it really matters, but just so that they're both similar. Right, that should be fine. Right, so we've got the two bunny ears there. So I'm going to now do the inner part of the ear with some pink. I'm actually just using fondant for this. You don't have to use modelling paste on this part, only because it's just the inner part. It doesn't have to be thick either. So we need two of these also. So let's cut the first one. And let's see if I can get the second one from here. Yep, just about. Let's just remove this one so I don't cut this by accident. Okay. I didn't get the point properly here. Okay, so I'm going to just attach the pink part of the ear to the white part with some water or edible glue. Either is fine. So this is the first one. And then the second one. Okay. Right, so that's the bunny's ears done. So now I am going to just stick 2 toothpicks in the bottom part of the ear, just here, so that that can be attached to the cake. But these ears, they really do need to be dried for about maybe an hour or so, or even longer. But if you're in a rush, I'd say maybe an hour should be enough, so that it stands up straight and doesn't flop over or anything. So I'm just going to attach the cocktail stick actually into the bottom of the ear. Like that. And I'm just going to set these aside to dry. I've got some that I've already made earlier, so when I put the cake together, I'll use the one that I've already got that's dried. So now that I've done the ears, we're going to go on to the next step, which is the face. So I'm going to start off by making the cheeks, and then the nose and the eyes and the whiskers. So for the cheeks, we need some white fondant. So I've got some here. How much do we need? Probably about, I'm just going to measure it up against the one I've already got. It's a bit big. So about this size. About this size is what we need for the bunny's cheeks. So if I do 2 of those, let's see, roughly, yep, that's about roughly the same. So just roll those into a ball. Just going to add some more corn flour. Right, so roll those into a ball. That's one, and another one. That's 2, roughly the same size. And then using the pink fondant, we're going to do a little nose. So we need about maybe a little bit smaller than the 2 balls that I've just done. So I've shaped it into a ball, and now I'm going to flatten it slightly and make it into a little triangle shape, because it's going to like be in between the 2 cheeks like this. So just taper the end so it's more like a triangle. So it's going to look like that. All right, that's fine. So I'm going to stick these onto the cake. So I'm just going to bring the cake back up. Just move the template. Right, so I'm going to stick it on with some, I think maybe I'm going to use the edible glue for this. So I'll stick it on and then I'll turn it around to show you what I've done. So I'm just going to make sure that it's not too close to the bottom of the cake. I'm just going to put these, stick the 2 cheeks on first. So when I stick it on, I'm slightly flattening it as well, so it's not so rounded as it was when I, oops, need a bit more glue there. Okay, I think I might have to step back a bit just to make sure that it's straight. So I'll just show you that so far. So that's the cheeks. so now I'm going to stick the nose on. So I'm just going to add some glue to the actual cake and onto the middle part of the cheeks so that this nose can fit snugly in between. Okay, that should be okay, I think. Okay, so we've got the cheeks on there and the nose. So I'm just going to let that slightly dry a little before I put the whiskers in. So I'm just going to move on to the eyes. So for the eyes, I'm using some black fondant. I've got some black fondant here. Just give this a bit of a knead. I'll just put this there a sec. Right. So for the eyes, this is probably too much actually. So I'm just going to break this one in half. So I've got 2 balls here. So I'm going to roll it into a ball and then into a sausage shape. And then taper the ends. And actually I think this is too much. Oops, I think it's too thick. So I'm just going to take, it's too much, so I'm just going to take some off and re-roll it into another ball. If I roll the other one as well, so just to make sure that they're both the same size. Okay, so sausage shape and then taper the ends. That's one. And the other one, same principle. And then just make sure the ends are tapered. Let's check that they're the same size and length. It's about okay, I think. So I'm going to place the eyes on, and then I'll turn the cake around to show you what it looks like. Just checking that it's the same length as the other one. It's too big actually, it's too long. It's a bit too long, so I'm just going to cut a little bit more of the ends. Show you what I'm cutting. I'm just going to measure it up against the one I've got here. Yeah. Hopefully this is okay now. So I'm just going to taper the ends again. It was just a little bit too long, I thought. Right, so I'm now going to glue these on. So you just have to step back just to make sure that you put it in the correct position. So just paint on with some water or glue where the eyes are supposed to go. Actually, if I just show you on here the shape that it's going to be before I put them on, it's basically like a, I don't know, semicircle, half circle, and then flick one of the ends up. So it's going to that's the basic shape of what the eyes are going to be. So I'm going to stick these on. That's one. Oops. It's a bit tricky. I'm just trying to make sure that they're both the same height and that one's not higher than the other. So sometimes you just have to step back and have a look at it from afar. One slightly higher. Okay, I think that's okay. So this is what I've got so far. So we've done the cheeks, the nose and the eyes. So the next step is the whiskers. So I just noticed a bit, oops. Sorry, I've just dropped something. Right, so for the whiskers, I've used some cocktail sticks. You can use maybe something like floral wire to stick into the bunny's cheeks, or anything really that you think will resemble whiskers. I'm using these cocktail sticks, so I've got 6 of those. Let's get one more. Right, so I've got 6 cocktail sticks here. So what I've done on the original one is I painted them white. So I used some white paint on them. So what I'm going to do is stick them in to the cheeks first, and then I'm going to paint them on after. So you can just dip the ends in some water and then just stick them in. So I'll try and put these in. So I'm just putting some water in it just so that it makes sure it stays stuck in the cheeks. Just literally dipping the cocktail stick in some water. So that's 3, and then the other 3. Just trying to make sure that they're symmetrical when I put them in. And the last one. Right, so that's the whiskers in. That's the whiskers. So now I'm going to paint them with some paint very quickly. So it's just wipe the sides. So I've got some edible paint here, and I'm just going to paint the whiskers on. This one's already painted. I'm not sure that if you can see this one, but this one I painted earlier. This one here. but I'll paint the rest. Oops. You might be able to get some, so as I was saying floral wire before because it's already white. So that's perfect. Or if you can get some other kind of sticks that are already white, it just saves time. You'll have no need to you won't need to paint the sticks white if you already can buy something that's white in colour. Doesn't take long anyway, to be honest. Right, so that's the whiskers. Just do the back of this. It's best to do the back of them as well, because you don't want anyone to look at the cake from the back and see that the back of the whiskers aren't complete. Obviously you don't have to, but just so that it looks neater. Right, so that's the whiskers. Right, so now that the face is done, the next step is going to be the bunny's feet and its tail. So I'm going to use some white fondant. Let's just remove this black. So I've got some white fondant here. I'm just going to move that to the side. So it looks like the nose is going to fall off, so I'm just pushing it back in. Maybe I didn't put enough glue behind it. And because it's quite a thick piece of fondant, it's quite heavy, so it's possible that it can just fall down or fall off. So just make sure you put enough glue or water on the back so that it stays in place. So I'm going to do the bunny's feet now. So we need, let me just cut this in half. Actually, I don't know if this is enough. Let's just see. No, it needs to be a bit bigger. So that's some of this. Just going to knead this together. Right, I hope this is enough. So let me just roughly break this apart and just put it up against the one I've got here. It's a little bit too big, so I'm rolling it into a ball. And then I'm going to just flatten it slightly, but I want it to be a little bit elongated a bit, so slightly oval, not too round. Let's do the other one. Another ball shape. Jeez, put a bit more actually, it's a bit too small. A bit more fondant for that one. Right, so flatten that out a little. Just make sure they're roughly the same size. Let me just measure it against the other one. Right. So what I'm going to do is just run my knife into 2 slits in the top so it resembles its paws. Let's put some corn flour because it's a bit, so on both of them. So the feet are going to go there, either side. And I'm going to cut out some pink circles for part of its paw. If anyone has any questions or anything that they'd like to ask me, just pop it into the comments box and I'll make sure that I reply after the live. But this is a really cute cake to make for the Easter, which is not too far off now. So I'm using this round cutter again to cut out 6 pink circles. Let me just use the knife actually to get them out. Whoops! Just dropped it. So I might need to get Nigel to pass me the circle. Sorry everyone. It's just under there. Typical, this had to happen. Thank you. So I'll just cut 6 of these out. I'll try not to make that slip out my hands again. 1, 2, 3. 4. It's a good thing this cake's a dummy because obviously if this fell on the floor you would have to make sure that you wash it, disinfect it and everything, but it's a dummy, so on this occasion it doesn't matter. No one's eaten this cake, so there's no worries then on that part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll stick these down with some water. Can you see? So that's 1, 2, 3. Just press it down slightly. 1, 2, 3. Right, so for the middle part of the paw, excuse me, for the middle part of the paw, I'm going to use a slightly bigger circle. So what I'm using is a piping nozzle actually. I'm using this because this was the perfect size for what I wanted it for. Obviously if you've got some cutters to use you can, but I can't find the other size up that I have, so this works well for me at the moment. So I'm going to cut 2 of these. One, just put some corn flour around it because it's slightly stuck there. All right, some water just in the middle of the paw. Just press that in there and that one there. So now that these paws are done, they can be stuck onto the front of the cake. So I'm just going to turn it around, stick these on, and then I'll show you what I've done. I actually should have put the paws on before I put the whiskers, because the whiskers are slightly in the way, but it's still doable, so that's fine. Okay, and just make sure that it's pushed in firmly, because again it's quite a thick piece of fondant here, so it may just slowly fall off if it's not stuck down properly. So just make sure you put enough water there. Alright, just going to eyeball. Just make sure it's in the right place. Okay, that looks okay to me. Okay, there you go. So that's the paws on. Right, so the next bit is I just remembered there's something I did not show you to do with the ears, because I was just about to put the ears on, the ones that I made earlier. But with the ears, what I should have showed you is that one of the ears were slightly bent down, and this should have been done when it was a bit more wet, but because this is the one that's drying, it looks like it's about to crack. It's not cracking, but it's slightly cracking underneath. But what I should have showed you is that, if I just show you on this one, if you can see here, this is the one that I done earlier. When I just cut it out, I bent the ear over so that it looked like one ear was up and one ear was flopped down. So I can't really do it on this one that I just made at the beginning because it's drying. But this is what I wanted to show you. So here it is. This is the one I made earlier anyway. So I'm going to stick these two in. See, it's nice and dry. It's nice and dry. So this is exactly what we need. So I'm going to put these in. So to make sure that these are in the right position, I'm just going to eyeball where the nose is and make sure it's central. So where the nose is, the middle of the cake is around here. So I'm going to put the ears, oops, sorry, lots of cornflour dropping off. I'm going to put the ears around there. Oh, sorry, I should have said that you can put some glue underneath to make sure it sticks. Okay, and the other one. Can go there. So that's the cake with the ears on. Okay, that's the one with the floppy ear. So now that the ears are on, the next step will be the flowers. So we're going to make the headdress for the bunny, the head decoration. So I'm going to use a blossom cutter. This is my blossom plunger cutter. This is what the this round one should have had. This is the plunging part that was missing. They do fall off sometimes and I don't actually know where it is, but you can still use it even without that. You just have to make sure you pick out the fondant if it doesn't fall out itself. But yes, this is the Blossom one and it's about 1 inch in size. So I'm going to use this one. And I've also got a smaller one as well. This smaller one here. And I also have a cherry blossom mold. It makes the blossom look a little bit more realistic and it's got detailed veining on it. So when you cut your blossom out, you put the blossom in here, close it, and it will bring out a really pretty flower with lots of detail on it, which I'll show you now. So I'm going to cut some pink, baby pink, yellow, white and lilac flowers. So it's a good idea if you make these flowers in advance so that they have some time to dry as well. But definitely make sure you use modelling paste for this as well, so it's easier to dry, so that it can dry quicker, and it will be a lot harder as well. So just move this out of the way. So I'm going to start with some lilac flowers. I'm going to do maybe two big ones and then maybe one little one. It needs to be just a couple of millimeters in thickness here. So I'm going to cut 2 of these. Actually, let me just roll it a bit bigger so I can get 2 out of this. So that's 1. See the beauty of a plunger? You can just press the back and it pops out. So much easier. And that's the second one. And then I'm going to do a small one. Right. So what I do next is I'm just going to dab a tiny amount of cornflour in the middle of the cherry blossom mold. Put the blossom inside and then push down, and there we have a cute little blossom flower, cherry blossom. And I'll do that with the other one. So that's 2. So I've got some foil here, so I've just got some foil and folded it in half, and what you can do is you can place the flowers inside the crease so that when it dries like with some shape, so it's slightly rounded, I'd say. So I'll just leave those there. So as I go along, I'm going to place them in there so that they form that way. So I'm going to do some pink. I'm going to cut 3 of these. So it's 1, 2, 3. Oh, and I'm going to cut a small pink one as well. Let's put that there. Okay, And I'm going to do the same thing, putting it inside the mold. Push the top part on it, and there we have a really pretty flower. 2, 3. And then I'm going to do some yellow. I'm going to do 2 of these. Right. Oops, nearly dropped those. You can actually buy flower formers, I think they're called, which you put the flowers in so that they dry to that shape. Otherwise you can just make it out of foil or something. It's just so that it looks a bit more realistic, I'd say. Has some body to it rather than it being just flat. Okay, and there's the yellow one. And then a yellow flower, small flower that is. I just need one of each colour of the small ones. And then lastly, it's 2 white ones, 2 white flowers or blossoms. You do need to roll them fairly thick, because if you roll them too thin, when you put them in the flower former, they will probably fall apart. It will just stick to the sides of the former and it will end up breaking. So it's best to do it so it's quite thick. I said former, I meant the mould, I meant this mould. Make sure that the fondant is quite thick when you put it in. Okay, so that's all the flowers done. Oh, and one small white one. Neat. That goes there. Right, so now what I'm going to do is just arrange the flowers around the ears, just around the ears here, with some water. So I'll do that. Actually, I might use edible glue for that. It doesn't really matter what you use, but I just want it to make sure it sticks properly onto or around the ear. But I might just turn it actually so that you can see what I'm doing. So I've stuck a pink one there. I'm going to stick a lilac one there. Yellow one in the middle, then a white one, and then another pink one. Just there we go. So I've got pink, lilac, yellow, white and pink, and then I'm going to do another layer on the front. And this is going to be white, pink, so I just need to turn it slightly. White, pink, and yellow. Then I'm going to put a lilac one just in the middle here. Just going to lift this one up a bit. Just lift this one up in the middle. Right. Okay, I think that's all right. Just making sure this one in the middle. So I'm just making sure the lilac one is in the middle of the bunny's nose. So now I'm going to just arrange the small blossoms. I've got 4 small ones, so I'm just going to arrange them just randomly around. Actually 1, 2, 3, maybe I needed to cut one more, but let's just go with this for now. So one there. Actually I might go with the yellow there. Yellow, then a pink, and a white, and then I'm going to put a lilac there. I'm going to put the lilac here actually, and maybe I'll put what colour shall I put there? Maybe another pink. So I'll just cut another small pink blossom. Right. Okay, so that's the front of the bunny. Okay, so now that's done, that's all the flowers done on the top of the bunny's head. So the next step is going to be just the finishing touches, and what I'm going to do is use some luster dust for the cheeks, using my shimmer pink, which you know I love to use, and also some gold glitter spray, again another one of my favorites. So let's go ahead and dust the bunny's cheeks. Right, so let's just make sure, just blending down again just to make sure I get the dusting in the right area. Okay, it's not too much pink, but it's quite subtle. I don't know if you can see that there. And just make sure I put the lid on. I'm going to use my glitter dust just to spray it all over the bunny. Now it's looking all lovely and sparkly. And the last thing, this really is the last thing now, is I'm going to add some, add a ribbon around the board. So I've got some yellow ribbon here. Got some yellow ribbon here, and this is 13 millimeters thick. So if I just put this here, so I'm just going to put this around the board. And just cut off the excess with my scissors. Usually I'd secure a ribbon on a board with some double-sided tape. But on this occasion I'm going to use a pin, if I can find it. Just take the one out of this one. I'm going to use a pin. So I'm just going to put this in place around the board. Make sure it's pulled tightly enough. I think my fondant was a little bit too thick on this board. So in this case, you choose a ribbon that was a couple of millimeters thicker. So you could have, or I could have used a 15 millimeter ribbon, I think, because my fondant was so thick on the board. So you have to be mindful of how thick your fondant, if you cover your board that is, be mindful of how thick you do it, because that will determine how thick your ribbon needs to be. So if I had done it a bit thinner on the board, then this ribbon would have fit perfectly around the board, but because it's a bit too thick, it's a few millimeters out, but that's okay, because it's just so that you know what to do when you do your cake. But I think this cake's finished. Yep, so that's your Easter bunny cake. I hope that you get to make your own version, and I'd love to see what you do. Any other questions you've got for me, pop them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. But yeah, this is it. So thank you for joining me on tonight's demo, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care and bye-bye.